Hi guys, welcome back to English with Max. In this video, we're going to look at how to say the names of 100 well-known brands in English. Some of these brands are not from English-speaking countries and they have foreign names, but even those brands have a standard or a couple of standard pronunciations in English. In other words, we anglicise them. There are some people who say that if a word is foreign, we should try to say it exactly how it is said in the original language. But if you do that, one of two things will happen. Either native English speakers just won't understand you, or you will sound pretentious. So in this video, I'm going to give you the most common English pronunciations of these brands. I'll also point out the differences in British and American English. For the foreign names, I'll also try to give you the original pronunciations. Not because you need to learn them, I just think it can be interesting to hear the difference. We're first going to look at some car brands. Now this is a German brand, and in German it's pronounced Audi. Audi. But in English we say Audi. Audi. This one is a British brand and it's pronounced Bentley. Bentley. Some people pronounce the T very clearly, so they say Bentley, but most people say Bentley. Bentley. Now we have another German one. In German, this is BMW. BMW. But in English, we say BMW. BMW. Now we have a French company. In French, this is pronounced Citroën. Citroën. But in British English, people normally say Citroën. Citroën. In American English, people usually say Citron. Citron. And I have also heard people say Citroën. Citroën. This one is a Japanese brand. I don't speak any Japanese, so I don't know how the Japanese say it, but in British English we say Honda. Honda. In American English, it's Honda. Honda. Now we have a very easy one. This is an American brand, and it's pronounced Jeep. Jeep. Now we have one from South Korea. I don't speak any Korean, so I don't know how Koreans say it, but in English we say Kia. Kia. If you're Korean and you happen to be watching this, please let me know in the comments. Is it very different or very similar? Now we have an Italian brand. My Italian's not very good, but I know that in Italian it's something like Lamborghini. Lamborghini. In British English, we say Lamborghini. Lamborghini. In American English, the R is pronounced, so people say Lamborghini. Lamborghini. Now we have Lexus. Lexus. I didn't realize that this is actually a Japanese brand. Like I said, I don't speak any Japanese, so I'm not really sure how the Japanese say it, but in English we say Lexus. Lexus. If you are Japanese or you speak Japanese, please let me know in the comments. Now we have another Italian company. In Italian, this is Maserati. Maserati. In British English, people say Maserati. Maserati. In American English, people usually say Maserati. Maserati. Again, we have a Japanese brand. In British English, this is pronounced Mazda. Mazda. In American English, it's usually Mazda. Mazda. Here we have another German company, and in German, this is pronounced Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz. But in British English, we say Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz. In American English, the R is pronounced, so it's Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes-Benz. Another Japanese one. In British English, this is Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi. In American English, it's usually Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi. And now some more French cars. In French, this is pronounced Peugeot. Peugeot. In British English, people say Peugeot. Peugeot. In American English, it's usually Peugeot. Peugeot. Here's another German one. In German, this is pronounced Porsche. Porsche. In British English, it's Porsche. Porsche. There are some people who say Porsche, but normally it's people who know a lot about cars. Most people just say Porsche. In American English, it's similar, but the R is pronounced. It's Porsche. Porsche. Again, I have heard some Americans say Porsche, but I get the impression it's mainly people who are really interested in cars. This one is Japanese, and in British English, we say Toyota. Toyota. In American English, it's usually Toyota. Toyota. Here's the last one for the cars. This is another German name, and in German, it's pronounced Volkswagen. Volkswagen. In British English, I've heard a couple of different pronunciations, but I think the most common one is Volkswagen. Volkswagen. Some people do say Volkswagen. Volkswagen. In American English, people usually say Volkswagen. Volkswagen. Now we're going to look at some fashion labels. This one is a German brand, and in German it's pronounced Adidas. Adidas. But in English, we either say Adidas, Adidas, or Adidas. Adidas. Now we have an Italian brand. In Italian, it's something like Armani. Armani. But in British English, this is Armani. Armani. In American English, it's similar, but the R is pronounced. It's Armani. Armani. This one is a British label, and in British English, it's pronounced Burberry. Burberry. In American English, you pronounce the first R, so it's Burberry. Burberry. This one is an American brand. This is pronounced Calvin Klein. Calvin Klein. Okay, now this one is a French brand. In French, this is pronounced Cartier. Cartier. In British English, we say Cartier. Cartier. In American English, it's Cartier. Cartier. Here we have another French one. In French, this is pronounced Chanel. Chanel. In English, we say Chanel. Chanel. And now we have another French one. In French, this is pronounced Christian Dior. Christian Dior. In British English, it's either Christian Dior, Christian Dior, or Christian Dior. Christian Dior. In American English, it's usually Christian Dior. So you pronounce the R at the end. Christian Dior. This one is an American brand. In British English, we say Converse. Converse. It's not converse. Okay, we stress the first syllable. Converse. In American English, the O sound is a bit different and the R is pronounced. It's Converse. Converse. Okay, now we have an Italian label. In Italian, it's something like Dolce Gabbana. Dolce Gabbana. But in English, we say Dolce and Gabbana. Dolce and Gabbana. Here we have another Italian label, and in Italian, it's pronounced Fendi. Fendi. In English, it's very similar. We say Fendi. Fendi. Here's another Italian brand. In Italian, it's Gucci. Gucci. But in English, we say Gucci. Gucci. Now we have a Swedish brand. I have no idea how the Swedes say this, but in English, we say H&M. If you want to slow it down, you can of course say H and M, but when we speak, we normally say H&M. H&M. And another French one. In French, this is pronounced Hermès. Hermès. In British English, it's Hermès. Hermès. In American English, the R is pronounced, so it's Hermès. Hermès. And now we have a well-known American brand, which is pronounced Levi's. Levi's. It's not Levi's, it's Levi's. Another French one. In French, this is pronounced Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton. In British English, it's Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton. In American English, it's very similar. It's Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton. Here we have another American brand. This one in British English is Michael Kors. Michael Kors. It's not Michael, it's Michael. Michael Kors. In American English, you pronounce the R, so it's Michael Kors. Michael Kors. Here's another American brand. This is Nike. Nike. There are some people who say Nike, and technically that's incorrect, but honestly, I wouldn't correct somebody if they said Nike, because lots of people say it and everybody will still understand you. This one is Pandora. Pandora. This is apparently a Danish company, which I didn't know, and I have no idea how the Danes say it, but in English we say Pandora. Pandora. This is another Italian brand, and in Italian it's pronounced Prada. Prada. That's probably not perfect because it's a bit difficult for me to roll my R's. But in any case, in English, we don't roll the R at all. It's just Prada. Prada. Now we have Ralph Lauren, which is an American company. Something else I didn't know. In British English, it's Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren. Some people say Ralph Lauren, but apparently it's supposed to be Ralph Lauren. In American English, it's very similar. It's Ralph Lauren. Ralph Lauren. This one is UGG. UGG. Lots of people think that this is an Australian company because UGG boots were first made in Australia and New Zealand, but this is actually an American company. We pronounce this UGG. UGG. Now we have a Japanese brand. In British English, this is Uniqlo. Uniqlo. In American English, it's very similar, it's just the last sound that changes a bit. It's Uniqlo. Uniqlo. Now we have another Italian brand. In Italian, this is pronounced something like Versace. Versace. But in British English, we say Versace. Versace. In American English, you pronounce the R, so it's Versace. Versace. And now we have another French one. In French, this is pronounced Yves Saint Laurent. Yves Saint Laurent. In English, we kind of pronounce it like the French. We say Yves Saint Laurent. Yves Saint Laurent. Yves Saint Laurent. And now we have Zara. This is a Spanish brand and most Spaniards pronounce it Zara. Zara. But if you say that to a native English speaker, they will not know what you're talking about. In English, we say Zara. Zara. Now we're going to look at some food and drink brands. This is much more interesting. The first one is Ben & Jerry's. This is an American brand. If you say it slowly, it's Ben and Jerry's. But normally when we speak, we just say Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's. Now we have an American beer. In British English, this is pronounced Budweiser. Budweiser. In American English, you pronounce the R, so it's Budweiser. Budweiser. And now another American brand. This is Campbell's. Campbell's. Yes, the P is completely silent. We don't say Campbell's. We say Campbell's. Campbell's. I don't think this one needs any introduction. I'm sure you've all heard of it. In British English, it's Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. Although it's often shortened to Coke. Coke. In American English, it's pronounced Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. And it's also shortened to Coke. Coke. Here we have another American company. In British English, this is Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts. In American English, it's Dunkin' Donuts. Dunkin' Donuts. Another French brand. In French, this is pronounced Evian. Evian. In British English, it's Evian. Evian. And in American English, it's Evian. Evian. And now we have Haagen-Dazs. This is actually an American company. Lots of people think that it's a Scandinavian company. I used to think that as well, but no, it's American. This is pronounced Haagen-Dazs. Some people also say Haagen-Dazs. Haagen-Dazs. Now we have a Dutch brand. I believe we pronounce it pretty similarly to the Dutch. In English, we say Heineken. Heineken. Another American brand. This one is Heinz. Heinz. This one is also American. In British English, we pronounce this Kellogg's. Kellogg's. In American English, it's Kellogg's. Kellogg's. And yet another American brand. In British English, this is pronounced Kraft. Kraft. In American English, it's Kraft. Kraft. And now we have a British brand. This is Lipton. Lipton. When we talk about the tea, we usually say Lipton's tea. Lipton's tea. This one is pronounced M&M's. It's an American brand. If you say it slowly, it's M and M's. But when we speak, we usually say M&M's. M&M's. Another one that needs no introduction. In British English, this one is McDonald's. McDonald's. Be careful, it's not McDonald's. Okay, it's McDonald's. In American English, it's McDonald's. McDonald's. And now some more chocolate. Well, kind of. This is an Italian brand, and in Italian it's pronounced Nutella. Nutella. But in English we say Nutella. Nutella. Here's another American brand. In British English this is pronounced Oreo. Oreo. In American English it's usually Oreo. Oreo. Here's a fun fact. Apparently, Oreo cookies are vegan. And how could I mention Coca-Cola without mentioning this one? This is Pepsi. Pepsi. And now some Italian beer. In Italian, this is pronounced Peroni. Peroni. In British English, it's Peroni. Peroni. In American English, the O sound changes a bit. It's Peroni. Peroni. Next we have Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut. No, this isn't Italian. This is an American chain. Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut. And again, another American brand. In British English, this is Snickers. Snickers. It's like knickers with an S at the beginning. In American English, the R is pronounced, so it's Snickers. Snickers. In British English, this is pronounced Starbucks. Starbucks. In American English, the R is pronounced, so it's Starbucks. Starbucks. And then you might get a bit hungry and want to grab a Subway. Yes, this is pronounced Subway. It's not Subway, it's Subway. Subway. And after that, you might want to clean your teeth a bit by chewing some Wrigley's gum. Yes, this is pronounced Wrigley's. Wrigley's. The W is completely silent, so just ignore that. It's Wrigley's. Now we're going to look at some brands related to technology. In British English, this one is Adobe. Adobe. It's not Adobe, it's Adobe. In American English, the O sound is a bit different, so it's Adobe. Adobe. Now we have Alibaba. This is a Chinese company, but clearly this isn't a Chinese name. In English, we pronounce it Alibaba. Alibaba. You can also pronounce the first part as Ali. So you can say Alibaba. But both are correct. Alibaba, Alibaba. And I'm sure you all know this one. In British English, people usually say Amazon. Amazon. In American English, it's normally Amazon. Amazon. Now we have Android. 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 Now we have a Japanese brand. Again, I have no idea how this is said in Japanese, but in English we say cannon. Cannon. It's not can-on, okay? It's cannon. Cannon. I think this one is pretty similar in most languages. In English we say eBay. eBay. If it's very different in your language, please let me know in the comments. This one is Google. Google. It's not Google, it's Google. Now we have Huawei. This is a Chinese company. I don't speak Chinese, so I have no idea how it's said in Chinese, but in English we say Huawei. Huawei. Next we have Microsoft. In British English, Microsoft. Microsoft. It's not Microsoft, it's Microsoft. In American English, the last O is a little bit different. It's Microsoft. Microsoft. We have another Japanese brand. In British English, this is Nikon. Nikon. In American English, it's actually quite different. It's Nikon. Nikon. Now we have a Finnish company. In British English, this is Nokia. Nokia. In American English, it's normally Nokia. Nokia. Here's a very easy one. This is PayPal. 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 And now we have Philips. Philips is actually Dutch. I didn't know that. I don't know how the Dutch say it, but in English we say Philips. Philips. And now one from South Korea. I think in Korean it's something like Samsung. You can let me know in the comments if you speak Korean. But in any case, in English we say Samsung. 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 Here we have a German brand, and in German it's pronounced Siemens. Siemens. In English we say Siemens. Siemens. And here we have another Japanese brand. In British English, this is Sony. Sony. Although some people say Sony. If you say that, people will still understand you. In American English, it's usually Sony. Sony. Now we have another Japanese brand. In British English, this is Toshiba. Toshiba. Americans also usually say Toshiba or Toshiba. Toshiba. In British English, this one is Uber. Uber. In American English, the R is pronounced, so it's Uber. Uber. In British English, this one is Vodafone. 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 In American English, it's Vodafone. 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 And now one with an X. In British English, this is Xerox. Xerox. Yes, the X is just a Z. Xerox. In American English, it's Xerox. Xerox. And I'm sure you all know this one, but in case there were any doubts, this is Yahoo. Yahoo. Here's another one that I hope you all know. In British English, this is pronounced YouTube. YouTube. But lots of people say it YouTube. So the T becomes a ch. YouTube. In American English, it's usually YouTube. YouTube. And now we're just going to look at some miscellaneous ones. The first one is Disney. Disney. It's not Disney, it's Disney. Disney. This one is pronounced just like the bird. I know it looks like dove, but it's dove. Dove. And now a very easy one. This is FedEx. 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 And now we have the British department store, Harrods. It's not Harrods. The last vowel is a schwa. It's Harrods. Harrods. And you know those shops which are really hard to get out of? Well, you can thank the Swedes for those. Yes, this is a Swedish brand. I think in Swedish it's pronounced IKEA, something like that. But in English we pronounce it IKEA. IKEA. And now something that I really miss from my childhood, so much so that I actually have a t-shirt with it. This is Lego. This is a Danish company, and I think in Danish it's something like Lego, but in English we say Lego. At least that's the British pronunciation. Lego. In American pronunciation, the O is a bit different. It's Lego. Lego. And now a British company. This is Marks and Spencer. It's often shortened to M&S. M&S. In American English, you pronounce the R's, so it's Marks and Spencer. Marks and Spencer. In British English, this one is MasterCard. MasterCard. In American English, it's MasterCard. MasterCard. And here's another French brand. In French, this is pronounced Michelin. Michelin. In English, we say Michelin. Michelin. This one is a German brand. In German, this is pronounced Nivea. Nivea. In English, we say Nivea. Nivea. And now we have Target. This is an American company, but there is also an Australian company with the same name, and I just learnt that they aren't actually connected. Anyway, in British English, this is Target. Target. Sometimes people make jokes and they say that it's actually Target because that makes it sound a little bit more sophisticated. Target is quite a cheap shop, both in Australia and in the US. In American English, you pronounce the R, so it's Target. Target. This one is Visa. Visa. Yes, it's pronounced the same as the travel document. Visa. And yes, we've reached the final one. In British English, this is Walmart. 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 In American English, this is Walmart. 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 Thanks very much for watching. Please let me know in the comments if you found any of these pronunciations surprising. I know it can sometimes be a bit strange to hear a brand in a foreign language if you've only heard it in your own language. At least that has been my own experience. If you found this interesting, please share this with your friends and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Well, first, we have an and to pronounce this. and its pronunciations. Coca-Cola, Yves Saint Laurent, Laurent, Volkswagen, Peroni,